Ryan and Sarah were once that couple people looked at and whispered they're made for each other. From the very beginning, their chemistry was undeniable. They met in college, Ryan, the quiet and determined finance student who always sat at the front of the class, and Sarah, the free-spirited literature major with a magnetic smile, could light you an entire auditorium. Their first conversation happened at a student fundraiser where Sarah was selling handmade bookmarks and Ryan awkwardly tried to buy all of them just to keep talking to her. That's silly. Interaction led to a coffee date, then to dinner, and before long the two were inseparable. For the first few years, their relationship was electric. They laughed at the same jokes, dreamed of traveling the world, talked about future kids and careers. Ryan would surprise her with flowers just because. Sarah would stay up late helping him prepare for big presentations. They were that annoyingly perfect couple on Instagram. Smiling selfies, cozy trips, inside jokes, and when Ryan proposed on a rainy rooftop overlooking the city, Sarah cried so hard she couldn't even say yes, just nodded as she clutched the ring like it was the key to a new universe. Their wedding was small but emotional, attended by close friends and family, including Ryan's brothers Josh and Kevin and his cousin brothers Oliver and Carlos. All four of them were close-knit, having grown up together like siblings. Sarah adored them instantly. They were charming, protective, and made her laugh. Especially Oliver, who was the life of every family gathering. Sarah had even once joked to Ryan, "It's like I married into 5 versions of you." Back then it was innocent, endearing even. But like most love stories that begin with a roar, reality eventually crept in. The first shift came a year into marriage when Ryan got promoted. It was a good thing financially. His salary nearly doubled, and they moved into a better apartment, upgraded their car and began planning for a baby. But with the promotion came longer hours, constant travel and relentless pressure. Sarah, who had left her job after marriage to focus on writing, started to feel isolated. Her days became repetitive. Wake up, clean, cook, scroll, sleep. The passionate conversations they once had turned into dry logistical check-ins. Did you pay the bill? Don't forget to take your vitamin. I'm too tired tonight. Maybe tomorrow. At first, Sarah tried to reignite the spark. She planned date nights, tried new recipes, even bought lingerie she never had the courage to wear before. But Ryan was always tired, always distracted, eyes glued to emails, even during dinner. And when they did talk, it often led to arguments. Not about anything major, but the kind of little things that pile up when emotional distance builds. Sarah felt invisible, like a piece of furniture in their beautiful apartment. Ryan, on the other hand, felt unappreciated. He was working his off to give her everything they'd once dreamed of, yet it felt like nothing was ever enough. Their bedroom, once a sanctuary of passion, turned cold. Intimacy dwindled. Touches became routine. Kisses lost their meaning. They started sleeping. At different times Sarah would lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was what forever felt like. She didn't want to cheat, she didn't want to hurt Ryan, but she missed being seen, desired, craved. Ryan noticed her distance but didn't know how to address it. He thought maybe it was a phase, maybe she was just feeling bored at home. He tried buying her gifts, a new phone, a dress, even a spa package. But the gifts didn't matter. What she needed was connection, attention, vulnerability, and Ryan, overwhelmed by work and stress, just didn't have it in him anymore. Then came the birthday plans. It was Ryan's 34th and Sarah had planned to make it special. But before she could even get started, Ryan's brothers reached out with their own plan. They were organizing a surprise midnight celebration. They told Sarah not to worry about anything, that they would take care of the arrangements. All she had to do was keep Ryan unaware. Sarah was grateful. It felt nice to be included again, to have something exciting to do. She started meeting with them more frequently in the days leading up to the birthday. They'd go shopping for decorations, pick out the cake together, coordinate drinks and music at first. It was strictly about the party. But then the boundaries began to blur. Oliver was the first to cross the line. He playfully called her Sarah Baby one afternoon, laughing it off. Kevin would brush against her a little too close and narrow aisles. Carlos sent her a meme that was borderline inappropriate. But Sarah? desperate for attention, didn't shut it down. She laughed, she smiled, she flirted back. She told herself it was harmless, just teasing, nothing serious. But deep down, something darker was awakening inside her. A part of her that had felt ignored, locked away, aching to feel alive again. One evening, as they wrapped up decoration planning at Oliver's place, Sarah sipped a glass of wine they'd offered her. The music was loud, the atmosphere felt light and carefree. Carlos complimented her dress. Josh mentioned how Ryan was lucky. Oliver put his hand on hers for a second longer than he should have. No one said anything but. The tension was there, thick, unspoken, simmering. Sarah drove home that night feeling confused, a little guilty, and strangely alive. Ryan, on the other hand, had no idea. He came home late, exhausted, kissed her on the cheek, and collapsed on the couch. She watched him, her heart torn in two, one part still loving the man who gave her everything, the other craving the attention that he no longer knew how to give. The day before the birthday arrived, Ryan left for work early, promising to be home by evening. The brothers and cousins came over in the afternoon, helping Sarah set up the living room. Balloons and lights. Sarah was in high spirits. The boys kept making her laugh, and she felt young again, attractive again, seen again. As evening approached, Sarah changed into a silk dress she hadn't worn in years. When Ryan walked in, the room erupted with surprise. Ryan smiled. Tired. Genuinely touched, Sarah hugged him tightly, and for a moment, things felt normal again. Ryan looked around at his brothers, his cousins, and his wife, all laughing, clapping, cheering. He felt lucky, but fate had been quietly drawing its knife behind the curtain. The night had only just begun. The evening sun dipped beneath the skyline. Casting a warm amber hue across Ryan and Sarah's apartment, the place was glowing, literally and emotionally. String lights shimmered across the ceiling, and a large Happy Birthday Ryan banner stretched over the living room entrance. There was laughter, the scent of vanilla candles, and an upbeat playlist humming in the background. Ryan, still in his office clothes, dropped his bag and looked around with genuine surprise. Sarah rushed to hug him. "Happy early birthday," she whispered into his ear. Behind her, his brothers Josh and Kevin, and his cousins Oliver and Carlos clapped and grinned like mischievous schoolboys. Ryan, surprised but touched, gave each of them a hug. "You guys planned all this?" Oliver winked. "Well, your lovely wife did most of it. We just added a little spice." Everyone laughed. The night began with casual chatter. Sarah served snacks, Ryan changed into a comfortable tea, and the group sat around the living room reminiscing. Stories of childhood chaos came pouring out. Kevin recalling the time Ryan got caught sneaking a pet squirrel into school, Carlos joking about Oliver's first crush. Sarah sat among them, smiling, watching them all drinking in the warmth of family. It was the first time in months she saw Ryan genuinely happy, his guard down, eyes sparkling like the man she fell in love with. Then came dinner, takeout but thoughtfully chosen. Ryan's favorite Thai dishes, sushi rolls, and even a tiramisu cake that Sarah had ordered earlier. As they ate and laughed, Oliver got up and theatrically presented a surprise. A sleek black box. "The real gift arrives at midnight," he announced. Inside the box, a bottle of premium absinthe. Ryan raised his eyebrows. "You trying to kill me?" Oliver laughed. "No, man, we're bringing the spark back. You've been too grown up lately. Tonight's about forgetting that." Sarah hesitated. She wasn't a heavy drinker and didn't usually like losing control, but there was something hypnotic about the carefree energy in the room. She glanced at Ryan, expecting him to decline, but to her surprise, he shrugged. "Why not?" "It's my birthday." Oliver, now in full host mode, pulled out shot glasses in a second smaller pouch. "Colorful capsules." "What's that?" Ryan asked. "Relax." Carlos chimed in. "Nothing hard, just party, pills, MDMA, it just helps you vibe." Ryan paused. "I don't know, come on, just one night." Kevin said. "You work like a machine, let go for once." Sarah added softly. "Maybe just for tonight." Ryan gave in. The shots flowed, the pills were swallowed. Laughter turned into uncontrollable giggles. Music changed from casual jazz to pulsating bass-heavy EDM. The room felt brighter colors, sharper touches, warmer. Time became fluid, the line between reality and intoxication melting into something surreal. Ryan's body gave him quickly the exhaustion from work, the alcohol, the drug, everything crashed together, and within an hour he was slumped sideways on the couch, smiling goofily before slipping into unconsciousness. But Sarah felt different. The moment Ryan closed his eyes, something snapped loose inside her. Her inhibitions dissolved like sugar and heat. Her pupils dilated. Her thoughts blurred. The buzz of the music synced with the rhythm of her heart, and suddenly everything felt sensual. Every laugh from Oliver felt flirtatious, every touch from Kevin sent tingles down her skin. Her head buzzed with confidence, a kind of reckless boldness she hadn't felt in years. It started subtle, a playful nudge, a teasing comment about how good she looked tonight. Oliver offered her another drink, then wrapped his arm around her shoulders for a photo. Carlos sat on the other side, brushing her thigh accidentally. Sarah laughed, aware yet not resisting. A part of her enjoyed the attention. These were 4 men who made her feel beautiful again, wanted again, her loneliness. The emotional drought of the last 2 years all exploded under the influence. They moved closer. Kevin poured her another drink. Oliver whispered in her ear something indecent and daring. She giggled. Josh pulled her hair back flirtatiously and said she smelled amazing. Carlos traced her fingers as she reached for a chip. It all blurred into a single thought. I'm alive. I'm desired. Then Oliver leaned in and kissed her. Sarah's breath caught for a second time, froze. The music became a hum. Her heartbeat thudded in her ears. Then she kissed him back. Carlos leaned forward and kissed her neck. Josh touched her waist. Sarah didn't resist. It was as though she had left her body, watching it unfold like a dream. No judgment, no guilt, just sensation. Oliver stood up and extended his hand. Come upstairs. Sarah hesitated for a split second. Her eyes flicked toward Ryan, unconscious on the couch. She stood up and followed them. The 5 of them ascended the staircase, hands intertwined, kisses shared mid-step. The door to the guest room opened and inside, Sarah became someone else. Someone who craved everything, felt everything, responded to everything. They undressed her like a queen, each touch sending waves through her body. The 4 men took turns, sometimes together, sometimes in pairs, and Sarah moaned, lost in the sensory storm below. Ryan stirred. The drugs had worn off faster for him, or perhaps his exhaustion had allowed him a brief escape. Now, awakened, dehydrated, he pushed himself up from the couch. The apartment was quieter than it should have been. No music, no laughter, just a low rhythmic sound coming from upstairs, faint but distinct. He checked the time, nearly 2:40 a.m. He looked around. The lights were still on, drinks half finished, pill wrappers on the floor. He rubbed his eyes and stood up. The nausea kicked in first, then the headache, then the curiosity. He took a few steps toward the stairs, each one heavier than the last. The sounds upstairs grew louder, indistinct voices, a rhythmic creaking, muffled moans. Confused, Ryan climbed slowly, his mind still fogged, but his instincts screaming. The hallway was dim, the guest room door was ajar. He reached it, pushed it gently, and the world shattered. There, on his own guest bed, Sarah was naked, sweating, moaning, surrounded by the 4 people Ryan loved and trusted the most. Oliver was on top of her, Carlos behind her. Josh and Kevin flanking her sides, kissing her, touching her, enjoying her. Ryan didn't make a sound. His brain couldn't process it. His mouth opened but no words came out. His legs felt numb, his vision blurred with tears and disbelief. Sarah saw him first. Her eyes locked on to his. Her body froze mid-movement, then she screamed, covered herself, jumped off the bed. The others turned shocked. Silence hit the room like a bomb. Ryan stepped back. His breathing was shallow, heart racing. He stammered. What is this? Sarah rushed toward him, still covering herself. Ryan, wait. We were drunk, we were high, it meant nothing. Please listen, Josh shouted. Bro, I swear we didn't mean to. Ryan put up his hand. His eyes were cold, focused. He scanned their faces. His wife, his brothers, his cousins. All naked, all guilty. It escaped his throat, then silence again. Sarah pleaded. Please Ryan, it happened. We were not ourselves. Ryan's lips parted slightly, trembling. He whispered. You're not even sorry. And then something inside him snapped. Ryan stood in the doorway like a statue carved from grief. His legs were rooted, his hands trembling, his lips twitching between fury and devastation. The room, his guest room, looked nothing like a room anymore. It was a battlefield of betrayal, a crumpled bra on the floor, pill wrappers on the nightstand. Sweaty bodies scrambling for covers, the smell of sweat, alcohol, and something far more rotten shattered loyalty. Oliver was the first to move, reaching for his shorts. Ryan, bro, we didn't mean for it to don't. Ryan whispered. Everyone froze. Ryan wasn't yelling. He wasn't screaming. He was too quiet. That kind of quiet that sends a chill down your spine because you know something dangerous is coming. Sarah wrapped a bed sheet around herself, her face soaked with panic and tears. We were drugged, Ryan. We didn't think straight. He cut her off with a look so hollow it seemed like his soul. He left his body drugged. His voice cracked. That's your answer? Carlos stepped forward nervously, pulling on his shirt. We got carried away, man. It was the moment. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. Ryan scoffed. Nothing. He looked around slowly. My wife with my 4 brothers. On my birthday, while I was asleep in my own house. No one responded. He took a shaky breath and said, almost to himself, I trusted all of you, every damn one of you. Oliver raised his hands. It was a mistake. It just spiraled. We didn't plan this. Ryan laughed. Of course you didn't plan it, you just let it happen. That's worse than. Sarah, still sobbing, stepped closer. I'm sorry, I truly am. We lost the spark. I felt alone. You were never around. Ryan's head jerked toward her. So this is my fault? She trembled. No, I mean, maybe if you'd been more would, he snapped. More present, more attentive. So this is what wives do now when they feel neglected. Fuck their husband's entire bloodline. Please, she whispered. You don't understand how empty I felt. I wasn't thinking straight. You weren't thinking at all. Ryan's vision blurred. Not from the drugs, but from the sheer weight of betrayal pounding through his veins. His heart felt like it had been replaced by fire, and that fire, unlike anything he'd ever felt, was about to consume them all. He turned, stepped out of the room. Everyone stood in silence until they heard it. The metallic clang. He was back, this time, holding the kitchen knife from the living room table. Their eyes widened. Ryan. Josh murmured. Put that down. Ryan's expression was dead, eyes glassy, face pale. The blade gleamed under the dim light, catching the horror etched into every traitor's face. You made me this. Ryan said softly. Don't do anything stupid, Oliver warned, backing up. Ryan's voice dropped to a whisper, trembling with pain. You funked my wife, all of you, on my birthday, in my house, while I was asleep in the next room. He stepped closer. That's not stupidity. That's justice, Ryan. No. Sarah screamed. He lunged. The blade went straight into Carlos' abdomen. Carlos gasped, his hands instinctively trying to push Ryan away. Blood squirted onto the wall as Carlos collapsed, eyes wide in shock, clutching his stomach. Oh my God. Sarah screamed. Frozen. Josh charged toward Ryan to tackle him, but Ryan pivoted, slicing across Josh's neck, not deep enough to kill, but enough to make him stumble backward, shrieking in pain, blood gushing down his chest. Oliver tried to grab a lamp to defend himself, but Ryan was too fast. He kicked Oliver's knee, forcing him down, then plunged the blade into his chest, Once, twice, a third time. Each stab filled the room with a sickening wet thud. "Stop, please stop," Sarah begged, on her knees, sobbing. Kevin, frantic, bolted for the door, but Ryan ran him down, tackled him against the wall, and began stabbing his back. Screaming like a wounded animal, Kevin gurgled as he collapsed, twitching violently. Blood was everywhere now, on the walls, on the floor, splattered across Ryan's face. He stood among the corpses of the people he once shared his childhood with, shaking, drenched in red. Sarah was crouched in the corner, covering her mouth, her eyes wide with terror. "Ryan, you killed them." Ryan turned to her slowly, knife still in his hand. His chest heaved. His voice, when it came, was barely human. "They betrayed me," he said. "They were drunk," she screamed. "I was high. It wasn't real." "Please, Ryan," "You moaned for them," he snarled. "You kissed them, you welcomed them in. That was no accident. I didn't know what I was doing." Ryan stepped closer. "You seduced them," he spat. "Didn't you?" No, please. I was a lonely. I was. You were a slug." He whispered. "You still are." "Please," Sarah cried. "We can fix this. I'll go away, I'll repent, I'll disappear from your life. Just please don't kill me." Ryan's eyes, once warm and full of love, were now black voids. "You created this," he said. "You made this happen." And then, without another word, he slashed. The knife went across her throat. Sarah gasped. Blood sprayed onto his shirt, her hands clutching her neck as her body fell, limped to the floor. The sheet fell away. She twitched once, then stopped. Ryan stood there for minutes, silent. Frozen, knife in hand, staring at 5 lifeless bodies in a room that once held family. The sound of the clock ticking on the wall became deafening. He didn't cry, he didn't scream. He just collapsed right there in the pool of blood. And finally, he wept. Ryan didn't know how long he sat there. His hands, caked in sticky blood, trembled silently over Sarah's lifeless body. His knees ached against the hard wooden floor, soaked in a crimson tide that felt both hot and cold at once. The knife, once gleaming, now dull and drenched, lay beside him, abandoned like a forgotten truth. All around him were echoes of screams. No longer existed. Only silence remained. A silence so thick and suffocating that it felt like death itself had wrapped its arms around the house. He looked at Sarah's face. Even in death, her expression was a frozen portrait of fear and disbelief. Her eyes were still open, glassy lips parted mid-beg. Ryan wanted to close them but couldn't move. He couldn't even breathe properly. His heartbeat thudded inside his skull like a war drum, and his mind played back that moment over and over. "We lost the spark. Maybe that's why it happened." Those words, her justification, were louder than the blood-curdling screams that came later. Louder than Oliver's plea, louder than Josh's gurgle, louder than Kevin's choking, louder than Carlos' whimper. Those 10 words had severed whatever fragile humanity was left in him. And now, in their wake, only horror remained. Eventually, the gravity of what he had done sank in. 5 people. His wife. His brothers, his cousins. Ryan had killed his entire bloodline. He stood up shakily, feeling the weight of 1,000 bricks on his chest. His footsteps made soft squelching noises on the soaked floor. As he staggered down the stairs, he looked at the living room, once filled with decorations, birthday balloons, and laughter. Now it was a graveyard of broken dreams. The half-eaten cake still sat on the table. Candles melted down to wax puddles. The music had stopped. The silence screamed. Ryan walked to the kitchen sink. He turned on the tap and washed the water. Run cold, clean, unaware. He scrubbed his hands furiously, desperately. But the blood wouldn't go, not from his skin, not from his memory. His knees buckled again. He collapsed beside the sink, sobbing like a child. And then, clarity. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, dialed 911. The call lasted under 20 seconds. The words were few. "I just killed 5 people. My wife, my brothers. Come quickly. The operator tried to ask questions, but Ryan hung up. The sirens came minutes later. Blue and red lights painted the walls of his living room like a surreal nightclub. The cops entered, weapons drawn, expecting a madman. The blade. Instead, they found a hollowed shell of a man sitting cross-legged in the middle of the room, staring blankly at the birthday banner above him. His hands were on his lap. He didn't resist, didn't move, didn't speak. They cuffed him. Mirandized him. He only said one thing. I have proof. Heck. My phone. At the station, Ryan handed over the 10-second video he'd recorded unknowingly when he walked up the stairs. His phone had been filming the floor at first, then it lifted as he opened the guest room door. The camera shook slightly, but the image was unmistakable. Sarah naked on her back, Oliver between her legs. Carlos behind her, Josh and Kevin kissing her body, her moans loud, her eyes wild, her hands holding on to all of them. It wasn't coercion, it wasn't confusion. It was willing. The officers didn't speak after watching it. The room went silent. Even trained professionals were shaken by the context, by the betrayal. The savage aftermath. But Ryan's fate was never going to be simple. The trial began 6 months later and instantly captured national attention. The media dubbed it the birthday bloodbath. Headlines screamed man butcher's family after finding wife with 4 brothers. Talk shows debated monster. Or martyr. Twitter exploded with hashtags #justice for Ryan, #Sarah deserved it, #birthday massacre. Public opinion was divided violently, so one half of the country saw Ryan as a betrayed man pushed beyond his breaking point. A tragic figure caught in a moment of primal rage. The other half saw him as a violent murderer who slaughtered 5 people instead of walking away. Ryan's defense team leaned heavily on temporary insanity, citing emotional trauma, betrayal, and the psychological impact of the scene he witnessed. They called expert psychologists who testified that Ryan had entered a dissociative fugue state, emotionally overwhelmed, chemically affected from the drug he was coerced into taking, and mentally snapped. The prosecution, however, argued intent. They brought up the knife. They replayed witness testimonies of neighbors hearing screams. One testified. Ryan screamed. "You all died tonight loud enough to rattle." The walls, they showed the stab wounds, multiple on each victim. They called it overkill. And then came the video, the 10-second clip. The courtroom watched it in dead silence. Some jurors flinched. Others looked away. A few cried. Sarah's parents collapsed in tears. Ryan didn't look up. The defense said the video proved the betrayal. Improved emotional provocation proved his loss of control. The prosecution argued. The video showed motive, not innocence. They said Ryan walked away, fetched the knife, returned with intent to kill. He had time to calm down, he didn't. He had time to leave, he didn't. The jury deliberated for 15 hours. Then, finally, the verdict. Guilty on 5 counts of second-degree murder sentence. Life imprisonment without parole. Ryan didn't cry. He didn't argue. As he was led out of the courtroom, he paused, turned to Sarah's family and whispered, "I loved her. I loved them all. But I died that night." Inside prison, Ryan was quiet, withdrawn. But he wasn't violent. He didn't fight. He didn't curse. He didn't even speak much. He was a ghost. But over time, inmates began to hear his story. Some mocked him. Others sympathized. A few, surprisingly, sought advice. Ryan began keeping a journal every day. He wrote about guilt, about betrayal, about love and madness, about how fast a beautiful life can crumble if you stop nurturing it. He was eventually asked to join a prison rehabilitation program to counsel others. Reluctantly, he agreed. Ryan spoke to younger inmates about impulse control, about recognizing mental decay before it erupts, about betrayal and forgiveness and how to survive pain without turning it into violence. His sessions became strangely popular not because he preached, but because he was raw. He never painted himself as a hero. He owned every blade. He drove into his own fate. "I let darkness win," he told one session. Now I live with it so you don't have to. Outside the prison, people still debated. Documentaries were made, podcasts dissected. Every minute of the case. A Netflix miniseries based loosely on his story was in development. But Ryan. He sat quietly in cell block C. Every year, on his birthday, he requested a moment of silence. Not for celebration. And for the memory of who he used to be, for the life that could have been, and for the blood that washed it all away. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like this video for more true crime video. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and theories in the comments section below. Take care and see you in the next video.